So welcome everybody. Here we are. Thank you so much. I understand the traffic out there is crazy terrible coming here. Of course, that's amazing here in Los Angeles. I can't imagine how that would be happening, but it is happening. But apparently today is the vortex of all bad traffic. So thank you for those who have weathered that and come in. So please welcome to the 8th Annual Women in Pain Conference. That's Transform Pain into Strength, the Power of the Comeback. My name is John Garrett, and I'm director of For Grace, an organization passionately dedicated to promoting better care and wellness for women in pain, and your host for today's event. This is truly a wonderful day, so draw near to be empowered, enlightened, and inspired for better days ahead. And welcome, of course, to those here live in the house here, and welcome to those via worldwide webcast. Women in pain from all over the world are viewing in. And so if you're also, while you're viewing in, if you're also on Twitter, or heck, if you're on Twitter here, you can use the hashtag WIPCONF. Again, that's WIPCONF to share questions and comments during our Q&A sessions, or just to say hello from wherever you are in the world. We'd love to hear from you. Now, we've got a lot of special things going on today, and probably the most special thing is that women who are challenged by daily, persistent pain will find hope, encouragement, and inspiration, along with the understanding that better wellness and pain control are within their reach. Also, women in pain will discover new building blocks to resilience, and that everyone has a comeback story in them ready to make miraculous things happen. Comebacks come in all sizes, big and small, as a whisper or earth-shaking. Also, it's well worth noting that 14 years ago on this day, September 11th, this country started a historic comeback from a very terrible time. From those ashes in New York, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania, an amazing comeback began, built on determination, fortitude, and yes, resilience. Now, for a few important need-to-know items. This is important. The restrooms are to your left as you leave the room, and right across the foyer. I just like to use the word foyer. It sounds, isn't that great? Is it foyer or foyer? I don't know. Okay, foyer. Okay, right across from the foyer, right across from the bathrooms are our wellness room, and complete with blankets and pillows for those who might need a quiet, restful place to take a break. And so that you don't miss a moment, you'll be able to view the live webcast of the conference from the wellness room also. Please take advantage of the space as it's stocked with ice water and set to a cool 74 degrees. I think I'm going to head over there right now. But before I do, I want to encourage you all to visit the ever-amazing Radine Marie Cook, who I see her lovely backside right now. There she is, okay, and her award-winning art gallery in the foyer. There's that word again, foyer, which displays the full spectrum of the chronic pain experience. In a word, Radine's work is phenomenal. And each year she creates an original piece of art for our conference welcome, which I believe that's it right there. It is that you have just seen it. It has been unmasked, and there it is. It's absolutely stunning. And as well as the our annual Patron of Women's Rights Awards that you'll see in just the next half hour or so. So when you see Radine, please give her a big hug and a big thanks for being so awesome. There we are. And I just lost my last page. Okay, and speaking of awesome, please take a look at page 3 of today's program to see all the amazing folk and organizations that have sponsored and supporting today's event. In fact, made it all possible. Also, please take some time to check out our exhibitor tables out in the breezeway to find out the amazing things that they've got going on. In particular, the USC Quench the Fire Walk Run table. This is one event that you don't want to miss, and it's coming up fast next month. So it's time to get me off the stage and get this show on the road. I now have the great pleasure of introducing a woman who I've gotten to know pretty darn well over 35 years of togetherness. She's the cream in my coffee, And the stir that straw, okay, I blew that. The straw that stirs my world. She also happens to be the founder and spokesperson for Grace, and she's going to share with you her comeback story. So ladies and gents, I give you Cynthia Toussaint. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Can I do that in front of the camera?
There you go, kiddo.
Oh my gosh. Man. I wore my high heels. I was wondering, yeah, I broke my toe and I still wore my high heels. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, John, for that lovely, warm welcome. I am growing so fond of that fella, got to say. Wow, thank you all for being here. Everyone who's still coming to this room, everyone joining us via webcast, it is so wonderful to have you with us on our very special day. I also want to thank two phenomenal legislators for working with For Grace to author resolutions that proclaim September as Pain Awareness Month, and September 11th, that's today, appropriately as Women in Pain Awareness Day. And those two women, both who have presented at our conference, are California Senator Carol Liu and Los Angeles County Supervisor Sheila Kuehl. Please, let's give it up. Thank you. Transform pain into strength, the power of the comeback. What, you might ask, is a comeback? Well, no worries if you asked, because today you will find out. And even though I wrote about it, I didn't find out until my beautiful, brilliant sisters in pain, who we plan this conference with every year, told me that my blog post was actually the theme for this year's conference. You know, like, wow, who knew? So now that we all know, I want to share the essence of that post with you. Earlier this year, I was invited to speak in Las Vegas, and I really did not want to go, because the last time I'd been in Vegas, I was crying. No, I was dancing in a headlining Illusion Act at the Flamingo on the Vegas Strip. I was working with lots of fire, tigers, remember, Mom? Showgirls, ridiculously talented performers. And it was the last time that I was truly in my element and happy. And it was 33 years ago. And while at that time I was dealing with excruciating, undiagnosed pain, I was hell-bent on not losing that glamorous life. Well, while I was forced to lose that life, I chose to stare down my fear, go back to Las Vegas and speak. And after John and I got there, we went to a tech rehearsal and enjoyed a lovely dinner with colleagues. And then we went back to our room, and I sat down in front of the window and all night long stared out at the now enormous Las Vegas Strip, and I thought about everything that I had lost over the past 3+ decades. Truly overwhelming, to say the least, and John had the nerve to sleep through it. But no snoring. He gets points there. And then at about 3:30 in the morning, Afton, I think you'll like this, something shifted, and I instead began to think about everything that I had gained. And by the time I hit the stage that morning, I was psyched up, re-energized, ready to go, and along with two other pain advocates, received a standing ovation from 2,000 people. Well, I never got that when I danced with fire and tigers. No, I had to lose my life, reinvent my life, and come back and talk raw and real about my life before I could, as my mother says, reclaim that wonderful city that I'm once again madly in love with. So that was a huge comeback for me, and everyone in this room, everyone watching, has a number of comeback stories, big and small, and I know that because each of us at some point in our perfect lives were, as Jen puts it, struck down by lightning, and we never got to see that life play out. But rather than choosing to be victims, we chose to come back better, stronger, more resilient than before. As Mary Elder puts it, sometimes grace comes in the form of a punch in the face. And the reason that we women can continue to take those punches is because of the word I just used. Today's word is resilience. Throughout our day, we are going to learn about all of the different aspects of resilience and how we can develop more. And besides the great opportunity of getting to work again with my amazing sisters, my favorite part of planning this year's conference has been getting to know the presenters that we're going to be hearing from throughout this day. We are truly honored and lucky to have with us pain psychologist Dr. Afton Hassett. Dr. Hassett is going to set our resilience stage this morning and then teach us about cognitive reappraisal, or how to rethink some of our, not that I've ever had it, but not so good thinking. And then role models, a huge part of resilience, and Women in Pain, Christina Kish and Maddie Root are going to knock our socks off. Just wait till you see what they have in store. Today we get to practice cursing therapy. Hot damn, it's good for our health. Did I do And then we're going to hear from Danae Horn, who's going to focus in somewhat on the resilient practice of mindfulness meditation, because like me, it helps her so much with her pain flares. Get ready to be inspired by Danae's life and work. In fact, she is appropriately the author of Chronic Resilience. I read it. Please pick up a copy while you're here today or via Amazon. Then after lunch, hopefully, Sisters Jennifer Hughes, all the way from Nantucket, Massachusetts, and Mindy Meyer, she'll be here for sure, all the way from Venice, California, are going to guide us through our personal journey comeback stories. I was lucky enough to sit in on a couple of those interactive planning calls, and in a word, wow. And speaking of, don't leave before our day is over. Please stay, because rebuilding our support systems, a critical and, in my opinion, the most difficult part of our resilience journey, will be the topic of our back by popular demand Women in Pain Empowerment panel. And then, just because we're lucky enough that we can, my favorite actor who's not here today yet, Kevin Dobson, will sprinkle his special brand of passion, care, and talent into our resilient program, and our Patron of Women's Rights Award that has been crafted by our very own resident artist, Sister Radine Marie Cook, will be accepted by ABC7's Denise Dodor. What a lineup, huh? Pretty cool. Okay. So I get to introduce our first speaker. Dr. Afton Hassett is a psychologist, as I mentioned. She is also an associate research scientist at the Chronic Pain and Fatigue Research Center's Department of Anesthesiology at the University of Michigan. And when I first learned from Jen about Dr. Hassett's, and I keep saying that, I'm sorry, Afton Hassett, Dr. Hassett, that's a tongue twister. When I first learned about her great work, I was really excited because I was born at the University of Michigan. My daddy was a professor there. I even posed nude there at a very young age because I was born with the chicken pox, so like I can never go back. I was much more excited when I first got to speak by phone with Dr. Hassett, and in fact, I recognized and shared with her in probably the first 5 minutes something like, oh my gosh, you're one of us, and we need to learn what you know. So we're really excited that Dr. Hassett flew all the way here. We'll be taking a connecting flight that won't get her home until midnight to be with us this morning. So let's all really enjoy and soak up the great, I'm putting a lot of pressure on you, aren't I? Let's soak up the really wonderful pain and resilience wisdom that we planned our day around, and that comes in the person of, we've got her here, Dr. Afton Hassett. Thank you.
All right. So, as Cynthia mentioned, my talk is resilience in the face of pain. It doesn't mean resilience because you no longer have pain. It's more important what we do when we're in the depths of the most difficult parts of our lives. So I'm going to touch on several topics. Can you hear me okay? I don't want to distort. Okay, is this better here? Is that better? Okay, great. I'm first going to talk about the nature of pain, because understanding the nature of pain helps us better understand the potential of our thoughts and of resilience. And to help set the context, I'm going to talk a little bit about positive psychology and how this really kind of turned the tide, how we start looking at resilience factors instead of only focusing on depression and anxiety as we had pretty much in the medical and research communities until now. Then I'll talk about the specific implications of resilience and positive affect for individuals with pain. And lastly, as I promised, we'll try some fun things, okay? So I want to begin with a patient story. This is a case that I always present to physicians, and they're absolutely, I know this patient. So Mr. K is a 44-year-old white male with severe chronic low back pain that began in college, seemingly due to a football injury. He has undergone multiple back surgeries, none resulting in adequate pain relief. The most recent surgery was complicated by sepsis, which nearly killed him. He is currently prescribed multiple analgesics, yet the pain persists. In addition, he's under the care of an orthopedist, a urologist, an otolaryngologist, an endocrinologist, and carries additional diagnoses of irritable bowel syndrome that began in childhood for him, adult chronic prostatitis, headache, myofascial pain, reactive depression, and insomnia. And his gastrointestinal symptoms are so severe that they often cause incapacitation, yet these are still second to how severe his back pain is. So when we see a case like this, most physicians say, I know this patient's never going to get better, what do you do with the patient? Well, let me tell you who this patient is. It's John Fitzgerald Kennedy. I had the privilege of working with Robert Peinels, who was a very, very senior rheumatologist who got access to the Kennedy Library medical files, and we spelunked through them and pulled together his history and understood it to be much more akin to somebody who has kind of a fibromyalgia picture. Yet, nobody will argue that this was not a very resilient and successful man. So understanding the nature of pain can help us better understand the connection between resilience and pain. So I'm going to give you a little neuroscience, okay? So in the 1600s, we pretty much thought that the way pain worked is that you would have some sort of injury that would occur in the periphery, like the toe to the fire, and that the message would zip right up to the brain and hit the pain area of the brain, and that's how pain worked. But we've learned that's not exactly it. In the 1960s, Ron Melzak and Wall and Casey, three wonderful scientists, one of them from the University of Michigan, Dr. Casey, started to explore, you know what, it's not that simple. Pain just doesn't shoot straight up. There's other things that happen that can change the nature of pain. And this was known as the gate control theory, that there's things that our brain do top down that actually stop the signal from going up. And then they also determined that pain is not just a sensory phenomenon, it also has emotional elements, and it also has cognitive elements, what we make of our pain, how we feel when we're experiencing our pain. And then they discovered that pain is processed by many more areas of the brain, not just one little pain area in the brain, many areas. And so that little S1 and S2, those are the somatosensory cortexes. These are where we say that pain is sensorily felt. But the other areas are all involved in pain transmission and pain processing as well. And many of those areas are also involved with thought and emotion. So what does this mean? Maybe I could show you some research studies that help you kind of understand what a weird and wonderful and slippery thing pain is and how we process it. In one study, they had individuals come in and they threatened them with very painful shock. And they put them in a scanner, in a neuroimaging machine, so we could look at their brains and threaten them with that shock again, and looked at the brain pattern. Okay? Then what they did is they had that same subject watch their best friend be threatened with that same shock on a little TV screen in the scanner. And when they saw that, the same pattern of pain, it was like they felt the pain that their friend was threatened with. But when a complete stranger was threatened with that pain, the same pattern didn't occur. It was as if you cared about the person that was in pain, you almost processed it and felt that same pain. But what's remarkable is it's not just humans that do this. Mice do too. When a mouse sees its friend, cage mate, being hurt or in pain, the mouse also becomes much more sensitive to pain. But when the mouse sees a stranger mouse under pain, they don't have that same sensitivity. Again, it's this connection. It's an emotional element. And then there's the case of the athlete that feels no pain when they should. This is Devin Gardner, the University of Michigan's quarterback last year, who was playing on a broken foot in this game against that school from Ohio. At this point, he should have been in tremendous pain, but yet he didn't really experience it. And there's many studies that support that when people are so removed and so in the flow and engaged in what they're doing, they almost don't perceive the pain. And something really magical happens when we laugh. Not just ha 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 laughter, but what we call Duchenne laughter. This is laughter that comes from our guts. This is the honest, I think I might pee laughter. Really intense laughter. When people experience this type of Duchenne laughter, they suddenly become much more tolerant to pain. The pain just feels less severe. What's that? The authors of the article think that what happens when we laugh is we release endogenous opioids. We release our own human analgesics when we laugh. And then a really amazing study. This is a study conducted at the University of Michigan, and what they did is they put advertisements out for individuals who had recently been devastatingly heartbroken, dumped in the last month or so. And so what they did is they brought these people in and they screened them using a questionnaire that saw how heartbroken they were and only took the most miserable of the bunch. And like good neuroscientists, they took these poor weeping people and stuffed them in a neuroimaging machine to see what would happen. And what they did while these poor heartbroken people were laying there is they applied painful stimulus to the skin, a hot electrical shock to the skin, and they watched to see what the brain did. And then they showed them a series of pictures of all different things and people. But when the picture of the beloved, the dumper, the breaker-upper showed up, they experienced a very similar pain pattern. The brain just lit up like I'm physically in pain again. And what we saw is it was very much the same areas of the brain become active when we're in social pain, rejection pain, as we are in physical pain. They're not exactly the same, but there's a very, very close overlap. And then there's this one. This might be more challenging. My physicians love this because when I say, well, which knee hurts? And they say, that knee over there to the right. Look at that. You got bone on bone. That's going to be painful osteoarthritis. I recognize that bone on bone. That's going to be a horribly painful knee. Well, what the data tell us is that's not necessarily true. There really is no X-ray test, oscopy, study that really consistently correlates the amount of damage with how much pain is being felt. Something else is going on. And what we know about this is all pain is not the same. There is what we call peripheral pain. This is pain that occurs outside and there's an injury. It's called nociceptive pain, meaning the little nociceptors pick up the pain and shoot the message up to the brain. This is what we see in inflammatory pain like rheumatoid arthritis, or if you injure a knee and it becomes inflamed, or if you have a tissue damage like a cut or a tear, as if you've torn your meniscus. These are very peripheral pains. This is usually very acute. This type of pain responds well to opioid medications and different types of external interventions. Then there's neuropathic pain. And neuropathic pain is usually due to some sort of damage to the nerves or an impingement or some such thing. This responds to different types of medications. And lastly, there's a pain that we call central pain or centralized pain. This is pain that doesn't necessarily require any tissue damage or any inflammation or any impingement. It is just the central nervous system amplifying the signal. This is the pain that we see most commonly in chronic pain, especially in fibromyalgia pain and other conditions that have a long-term process. Now, none of these categories are mutually exclusive. We see lots of people with rheumatoid arthritis who have inflammatory pain also have fibromyalgia, also have central pain. And in patients who have knee osteoarthritis that undergo surgery, some of them don't get better because while we might have fixed the knee, they also have centralized pain. They continue to have pain. So I want you to understand just the complexity of pain. So altogether, these three studies tell us three important things. Number one, thoughts, emotions, and pain are all neural events. They are processed by many of the same areas of the brain. Observable damage and tissue injury can be optional in the experience of pain. You don't necessarily need a lot of damage to experience a tremendous amount of pain. And lastly, psychological, emotional, and attentional processes are associated with the experience of pain. So pain really is much, much more than stimulus and response like we thought in the 1600s, right? So as a psychologist, I'm really interested in emotions and how emotions and the thoughts affect how we process pain. There's been a great amount of research into negative emotions. We know all these emotions: embarrassment, depression, anxiety, hate, fear. And what we know is that negative emotions are very strongly tied to all sorts of bad pain outcomes, including feeling more pain, having a lower pain tolerance, using more medications, having more disability. It's very clear that depression and anxiety really do kind of make things worse. And this is pretty clear because the areas of the brain all overlap. This is one area of the brain that becomes very activated when people are experiencing real physical pain, having a lot of a negative emotion, and are also thinking about their pain. See areas all light up. But what about positive emotions? That's where I'm fascinated, and that's where I come in. I want to know what positive emotions, we know enough about being depressed, that's not fun, but what can we do? How can positive emotions potentially have an influence? And positive emotions started to become more of something acceptable in the scientific community back in the 1990s when Martin Seligman was elected as the president of the American Psychological Association. And though he had always studied depression and pessimism and learned helplessness, he wanted to move psychology in a new direction to look at what is good and right in life, and towards positive psychology. And what Marty posed was that, the word psychology is based on the word psyche from the Greeks. Psyche meaning your spirit or your soul. And how do we get so far away from spirit or soul where psychology only focuses on what is wrong with people? The goal of psychological intervention has always been just to ameliorate the bad, get rid of the bad stuff, but never really focusing on the good. And thus, the aim of positive psychology is to catalyze a change in psychology from a preoccupation with the worst things in life, repairing these things, and to focus instead on the best qualities of life. And so about the time positive psychology was really taking off, I had just published my dissertation, and it was successful. I got it published, but I stood there with hands on my hips as a young psychologist saying, but I didn't figure it out. So I looked at depression and catastrophizing in fibromyalgia and found a very strong correlation between how depressed and how much patients catastrophized and how bad their pain and their disability was. But what I also found is about a third of the patients that I studied looked more psychologically healthy than the research team studying them. What is it about these people? About a third of these folks are amazing, yet they have tremendous amounts of pain and disability. So I decided I want to study that. And so what I found is that in every study I've ever looked at to assess, negative events, about a third of the patients look great. There's no study that has ever shown that any negative trait, psychiatric comorbidity, dysfunctional behavior, set of unfortunate circumstances is included in every single patient. It doesn't explain it. There's something else. There's always a resilient subgroup. And I think from those people, I could learn the most. And so I set out about understanding more about the intersection of health and happiness. So one of the first studies I encountered is probably one of the most powerful I ever saw. This was a study conducted in 2001, and what they did is they looked at 180 Catholic nuns. And when nuns enroll to the convent, they write autobiographies. This is my life to this point. And then they're archived and set aside. So what the researchers did is they went and they pulled these autobiographies and they looked at the relationship between their autobiographies and who lived and who died. At what early age. And what they found is that when they coded the autobiographies for how many times people used positive words and the types of positive words they used as young people, just to kind of get a sense of how optimistic or positive they were, they found something quite shocking. So they divided the nuns up into 4 groups. Along the bottom axis, the x-axis, you have 4 different groups. People who use a low number of positive words, people who use a few more, people who use a few more than that, and then people who use a large number of positive words. And what they put on the y-axis, the vertical axis, was your risk for mortality. And what we see is that the fewer positive words these nuns used, the more likely they were to die. And to translate that, in the group of nuns using the most positive emotion words, the top 25%, 9 to 10 were still alive at 85. In the group of nuns using the fewest emotional words, the bottom 25%, only 3 of 10 were still alive at 85. So it had a profound relationship with survival. So then the question begs, would assessing positive emotions be as relevant or be as relevant as negative emotions when looking at something more concrete, like maybe infectious disease? So this is another great study example. Sheldon Cohen is an investigator at the University of Pittsburgh who did some wonderful cold studies looking at isolating individuals in like this old hotel that they had rehabbed. They brought healthy individuals in, and right before they brought them in, they assessed them for 7 days and had them note positive and negative emotions, so they got a good sense of what their positive and negative emotions were 7 days before, brought them into the hotel, and exposed them to cold virus. And then they measured the number of clinical colds and how severe the colds were. And the way that they measured severity is they had the participants spitting mucus into cups, and they weighed this big snotty tissues, and they got this pretty, pretty nice measure of how bad their colds were. And look at the guy over there to the right. I mean, he's thinking no $100 subject fee is worth what I'm going through now. And what they found is that there was a relationship between negative emotions. So you see here, the low side, if you had low levels of negative emotions, you looked a little bit more or less likely to have a cold, as opposed to having high in the yellow. Those are more negative emotions and a little higher risk of cold. But when they looked at positive emotions, it was much more dramatic. The people who had low levels of positive emotions were much more likely to have colds and have severe colds. The people with lower levels of positive emotions were much less likely to catch the cold. So, of course, the scientific community almost had a hissy fit. It was really, really ugly because nobody could believe that positive emotions could be this protective for infectious disease. That's just crazy. And so Sheldon Cohen and his team went back and they replicated the study with even greater rigor and found out, yes, indeed, they had the exact same results, even using different cold viruses and even more tighter controls. So this was a pretty powerful suggestion. And so what it does is it causes us to think about the psychobiology. I won't go into this too much, but we know that positive emotions are associated with stress hormones that we release. It's associated with our heart rate variability, the health of our heart. It's associated with blood pressure and our release of inflammatory markers, inflammatory cytokines that make us sick. So there's a very powerful relationship between positive emotions and its biology, and it's independent of negative emotions. So you can be kind of depressed, but if you're also expressing positive emotions, you will be somewhat protected. And then when we go to the literature, a bajillion studies suggesting that positive emotions are nicely related to all the pain outcomes that we care about. People with higher levels of positive emotions experience less physical pain, they have a greater pain tolerance, they use less medication, they function better, have a greater quality of life, everything that we would ever hope for. So, if it's such a good thing, what underlies the magic? What is it about positive emotions that's different than negative emotions? So probably the most well-accepted theory is that by Barbara Fredrickson. It's called the broaden and build theory. And what she says is that experiences of positive emotions broaden people's momentary thought-action repertoires. There's more things we feel like we can do, which in turn serves to build their enduring personal resources, ranging from physical, intellectual resources to social and psychological resources. We're able to bring things together. We either become more resilient when we're positive. So when we have negative emotions, our vision narrows. This serves survival purposes. What do you guys see here? Hard to see, but boom, it's fearful. You need to see this out there or else you're going to get eaten by the tiger, right? Negative emotions, fear, anxiety, make us target focus and we get very narrow. When we're in positive emotions, we do something different. We open up. It broadens our field of vision, and there's a number of scientific studies that show just that when we're looking at stimuli and we're having positive emotions, we broaden out what we see. Positive emotions open up the possibilities to us. They increase our ability for new thoughts and different actions. They make thought much more creative and flexible and integrative when we're under positive emotions. And then positive emotions also undo the lingering thoughts of negative emotions. So if you have a depressive day, the next day if you're feeling a little bit happier, it helps kind of undo some of that psychological and physiological damage. And positive emotions help us build resiliency for the future. Positive emotions help us get a reserve so we can bounce back better. And it also helps us with social support. When we have positive emotions, we draw people towards us. And the more people we draw towards us that love us and support us, the stronger we are. Unfortunately, our other work shows us that individuals with chronic pain tend to have very low levels of positive emotions. So here is negative emotions, okay? So a healthy person on this scale has about 18. You want a nice low score. People with osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis have a slightly higher score at 19. People with fibromyalgia have a slightly higher score, actually it's pretty convincingly higher score at 23, and as do low back pain patients. But when you look at positive affect, it's much greater. With positive affect, we want high levels of positive affect. 35 is a normal, healthy level. In osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis, they're slightly lower at 33.8. Fibromyalgia, lower still at 29. And low back pain, lower still at 26. These are very low levels of just positive affect on a day in, day out basis. And I think what happens, one of the things that we see over and over again, is that when you're in pain, is you do what you have to do to survive. You do the things that must be done. The bills must be paid, I must get here, I must do that. And you don't do the things you love. And you're not with the people that you love. And you don't make the phone calls that make you feel loved. And when you aren't doing these valuable life experiences, it's very hard to have a lot of positive emotions. So the goal is, what can we start doing today to have more positive emotions in our life? Okay, let's see. Okay, good, we're doing good. So the first thing I want you guys to do is we're going to do a little social support round robin. Okay, so look at the lovely people at your table. Take a look at them, make eye contact with them, and give them a little fist bump. Yeah, pew, right? Little fist bump. Hey, hey. Okay, and if there's 3 of you, engage the third person. Okay, yeah. Hello, I see you. So, how frequently do we sit right next to people and don't even engage them? We do this all the time, even in a lovely forum like this. So reach out to the people next to you. The next thing now, take a look at your table mate or mates and think about something you like about that person. If you know them, it can be something really concrete that you know it's a character strength or something they do. If it's somebody you don't know at all, just what is something about them? How are they carrying themselves? Are they wearing a great ring? What is something unique about them? So look at that and then share it with them. Tell them what you like. Okay? Go. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, let's wrap up so we can kind of keep moving. I hope you've sparked some conversations that you can take into the break and you can get to know each other all a little bit better. I love this exercise because the energy in the room just picks up. Do you guys feel it? When all the buzzing and the positive energy and the smiles, I just feel it. You guys have connected. That's what was missing before. Is everybody's kind of sitting in their silos, but now y'all are connected. Very cool. All right. So another thing that you can do, and these are things that we have studied or currently do with patients. I'm going to share a lot of things that are very evidence-based. But this is a gratitude diary. Has anybody kept a gratitude diary? Has anybody ever done this before? Good, 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 good. Of course you have the resilient one. So gratitude diaries are really kind of cool things to do. There's a million ways you can do it, but this is the way that we like to do it because it stretches you. So my suggestion is that you find yourself a diary or a journal that you really like that's special to you, because there's something about having the thing, the coveted thing, that I think makes you more likely to engage in an activity like this. But what you want to do is every day, at the end of the day, write down 3 things for which you are grateful. It can be anything. It can be feeling the sunshine in your face. You can be happy that a friend called you, that you got a present, that you were successful at doing something. It can be your pets, chocolate. It can be anything that you want to be grateful. But you write these 3 things down, okay? And you commit to doing it every single day. But every day, you have to write down 3 different things. So by the time you get to week 2 of a 30-day exercise, you're really looking for stuff out there in the world that you're grateful for. Usually we do the low-hanging fruit. I'm grateful for my husband. I'm grateful for my son. I'm grateful for my job. I'm grateful for my health. But then we get to about thing 10, and we're like, ooh, okay, I'm grateful for sunshine. I'm grateful for cookies. And so it causes you to start changing how you look at the world, and through the day starting to scan for things that are good, that are positive. Okay, so try this one at home. I think this is a neat one. Now we're going to try an exercise here. This is where we can do this, probably that wall. That now is deemed the gratitude wall. Okay? Woo! So you have little stickies in front of you. I gave you just a couple little pads there. So take 1 or 2 each, and write down 2 things that you are grateful for. 1 on each sticky for each person, okay? And make these things you're comfortable, because you're going to be posting on the wall, so you don't want to say anything too private. But something that you're grateful for on each of those stickies. So do 2 of them, and when you've completed them, walk them over and stick them to that wall. Let's create our own gratitude wall. Okay? So while we're waiting for everybody to put their stickies up, who wants to share what they wrote? Who wants to say what they did? What did you write? Hands? Who's grateful for what?
Air conditioning.
Air conditioning, bravo, bravo. What else? Oh, yay. What else are we grateful for? What else? What else? Yes. Your son, your children. Yeah. What else? What else? Yes. Woo! Woo, 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 woo. Fabulous. Thank you for sharing that with us. One day at a time, huh? Good girl. Good. Anything else? It's tough to top that one. Yeah. Still being able to work. Fabulous. Good for you. Absolutely. Any others? Yes. 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 Oh, bless your heart. That's fabulous that you're able to do that. Wonderful. Any others?
My puppies.
Your puppies. Hooray. How about you?
My friends.
Your friends. Yeah. Oh my God. Thank God for our friends, huh? Yeah. You guys, that's awesome. So when you have a chance, like during the break, go and look at them. They're really quite beautiful over there. You know what? There's a little piece of everybody's heart. Little heart. Right there, right? Okay. So anyway, so that's not necessarily something you can necessarily do every day. It's just something fun for us to do together since we were a group. All righty. So another exercise that you can do, this is called Savor a Beautiful Day. What we tend to do is go through life rather mindlessly, right? And we try and get from one thing to another, and we're kind of harried, and we get to wherever we're going, and we don't even ever know how we even got there. Right? We are just so kind of in the zone of harrying and not being in the moment. So savoring a beautiful day challenges you to at least once a week put a date on your calendar. Circle the time. It could be 1 hour. It could be half a day. And that's the time that you're going to do something that you love. And you're going to be in it, and you're going to be present for it, and you're going to experience every moment of it. And in cognitive behavioral therapy, we call this pleasant activity scheduling. And we have this fancy name for it because you know what? People don't take their joy and their happiness seriously and actually make time for it. We take doctor appointments seriously. We take going to the grocery store seriously. We take all these things seriously, but we don't take our own psychological, and emotional well-being very seriously. So every week, just scheduling a little bit of time that you're going to do something that's really special to you and committing to do it and being present, experiencing it, taking little mind snapshots. Do you guys ever do that? When you're in a moment saying, this is a great moment. I'm so happy at this moment with this person doing this thing, and say, click, I want to remember this forever. Or use your iPhone and take a real picture, because then it's there, right? Another thing that is really powerful that we can do are kindnesses. But what I found with patients or individuals with pain is that they're really kind people and are really very good at taking care of other people and doing a lot of really kind things out of the way, but maybe not as good at doing kind things for themselves. So this exercise challenges you every day for a week to do one kind thing for a complete stranger, do one kind thing for somebody you love and know, and do one kind thing for yourself. You're doing 3 kind acts every single day for 7 days. Okay? And I see a lot of you are writing madly and stuff like that. I'm going to leave my slides, so we'll be able to post these, and you can have these, and so you can print them, and you can put these on your refrigerator and whatever you want to do. And kind of the way these exercises are actually done in clinical practice is we have people do just a series of them over a period of time. So you can do intentional kindness for 1 week, you can do gratitude for 30 days, you can do savoring for a week, and then you just try them back to back, and you find the ones that work for you, that you love and that you can integrate into your life, and then you can circle around. But usually if you just print them up and stick it in your refrigerator, you know, this is kind of what I'm doing today. Alrighty, this is another one. This is 3 good things. This is back into your journal again, and every night for a week, right before you go to bed, write down 3 things that went well that day. What went well? These aren't things that necessarily you're grateful for, but what went well? What did you do well? What happened well? What was good, right? And they can be really ordinary, or they can be really big things. But every day, write these 3 things down, and then think about, why did this happen? Did you play a role in it? What did you do to kind of make this good thing happen? And again, kind of being mindful. When things go right, what are you doing to make things go right? Alrighty, this is 3 good things. And this is another one. How are we time-wise? Okay, yay, we got time for this. Okay, this is another one where I challenge you to think about your character strengths. Positive psychology focuses on these, like psychopathology, or the other type of psychology focuses on depression and anxiety. These are our diagnostic criteria, right? These are what we're interested in. Do you have character strengths that fall in wisdom? Do you see yourself as a creative, curious, have good judgment? Do you love learning? Are you great perspective? Are you kind of in that realm? Or are you more kind of in the courage realm? You know, are your character strengths more along bravery and perseverance, honesty and zest? Or do you have a little bit of everything? You have maybe one in wisdom, you know, maybe you got one in humanity, you're a very kind person. You're maybe, you've got one in temperance where you're a very forgiving person. Maybe you've got one in transcendence, you're a very spiritual person. But I want you to look at these and see if you can identify 3 of these that you think that are your greatest strengths. So what you're really looking at is wisdom, courage, humanity, justice, temperance, and transcendence are kind of the categories. The character strengths themselves are really the ones in the light blue. So creativity, bravery, love over there. Okay, so look at these and think about you. Just take a moment. You can flip over your piece of paper or write on one of the sticky pads. Actually, it's kind of funny. I've had people write on little Post-its and then they stick them on the refrigerator. So what are the 3 for you? I'm not going to ask you to share these. I just want you just to kind of be internally thinking, what are my strengths? Okay, and jot them down. 1, 2, 3. Jot them down in the back of your paper so you have them. So I'm going to give you a little teeny exercise after this. So jot down the 3 that you think best describe you. Okay, and if you're still thinking about it, continue to think about it, it's fine. What I'm going to challenge you to do is sometime later today, use one of these. Be very mindful of a time that you're doing something that's creative, that you're doing something that's forgiving. Maybe you write somebody an email regarding forgiveness, that you're doing something that shows hope. Okay? Use one of those character strengths mindfully later today. Okay? I'm challenging you guys to do this. All righty. And then the last thing. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart because we have 2 randomized controlled trials going on simultaneously to assess whether or not this works. We think it does. Okay? And this is something else that you can do too. This is called the positive piggy bank. This is our intervention that we are giving to patients 30 days before they undergo operations so that they can kind of focus on positive things before surgery instead of negative things before surgery. We're doing this currently in healthy individuals as well as people who have chronic pain, but with the goal that we're going to be able to use this in a surgical setting and many other settings. And the way positive piggy bank works is, these are the exact instructions. Every evening, think about the people, things, or events that made you happy that day. Make a list if you like. Pick one of these and spend a moment savoring it. What made it so special to you? Now write down that moment on a currency slip, which is just a piece of paper, one of your Post-it notes. Use enough detail that you can recall what it means later. And next, add a date, fold up your happy memory currency, this little piece of paper, and drop it in the piggy bank. Who's my piggy bank mover around her? There she is. So take one of your little Post-it slips again now, and as you think back over the day, it's early in the day, but what's one thing that just made you happy? So far today, what's one thing that you can think of that just made you feel happy? Just a moment, oh, that kind of made me happy. Alrighty? Write it down on a little piece of one of those Post-it notes, fold it up, and if you like, you can also put notes to John and Cynthia, because we're going to let them read all the notes. And then when you're done, just put them in the piggy bank. The goal is to have like a piggy bank or even a little box with a slit cut in it, and you put it someplace where you see it, like at your dining table or in your kitchen. And every day, either you with your spouse or you with your family or you or your best friend or roommate, that you do this together at the end of the day and write these things down. They fold them up and put them in the box or the piggy bank. And then at the end of the 30 days, the 60 days, or whatever you deem to be the piggy bank time, you open them up and you read them all at once. And then you can recall what's happened, what took place over 30 days, 60 days that made you happy. Because I think what happens is we do lose sight of the happy moments. It's easier for us to recall the negative moments. It's part also survival for us to help recall the things that might hurt us. So we tend to forget the things that bring us joy. And that's what the goal of the Positive Piggy Bank is that it's a way that you can daily take account of what's good in your life and also look back and reminisce about the things that made you happy. All right. And so as I wind down, I just wanted to make you aware of kind of where we are going in the scientific world. Our goal is to translate what we learn in research and bring it to individuals. And so we are developing all sorts of positive psychology interventions that are going to be available online, free, no cost, very sophisticated, wonderful video-enabled types of things, but we're a ways away. But we do have a web-based resource that many of you might really appreciate. It's called No Fibro. Now, it is geared towards fibromyalgia. We say it over and over again, but it's based on cognitive behavioral therapy for pain. And it is an online, free, video-enabled, very sophisticated website that you may use. There's sleep hygiene on there. There is how to pace activities. There's how to cognitively reappraise, how to think differently. And there's also pleasant activities, so how to move pleasant activities and many other things on this website. Like I said, I will leave my slides behind so you'll have access to them, but if you're just jotting down, if you just put in Fibro Guide into Google, you'll get a University of Michigan site that'll pop up and you have free access. So with that said, I want to thank you very much for participating and for allowing me to come and speak with you today.